Namaste students, we are here for another session of English class. Today we have designed that we will go for a poem that is prescribed in the syllabus of class 9 CBSE board. The name of the poem is The Lake of Innisfree, written by W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats, it's a very popular and famous name in English literature. He is one of the prominent poets, a Nobel laureate. And he is one of the prime poets that Ireland has given birth. What's the full name of W.B. Yeats? His full name is William Butler Yeats. He was born at a situation where there is an onslaught of romanticism. At the same time, he has transacted his composition in the age of modernism. So we can say that he is also a poet of transition. He has seen both the phases. So we have to place W.B. Yeats in that transition, and we have to understand the tension between these two phases. There is always a tension. Tension does not talk about worries all the time, because if we talk about tension, we have to talk about the tension, the word that Alan Tate has used. There is always a tension. What kind of tension? Let's take an example. It's just like a bow in the hand of king. Any king, Ram, there is a bow. So in the other one hand, there is family. On the other hand, the full country or the nation that he is going to dominate. So there is always a tension. In one way, there is a tension of Prakriti, Sanskriti, nature and culture. So that tension is there. At the same time, the string in a bow that talks about the tension. If it is very loose, then definitely you cannot shoot. If it's very tight, there is always a chance that it will be torn into pieces, and ultimately bow is going to be ineffective. So that is what the tension, and perhaps somebody who is able to bear the tension, somebody who channelizes that tension into positive intonation, positive vibration, he appears to be, or anybody appears to be, a perfect personality. Because that burden has made you perfect. Diamond is actually a coal. There is a story like this. Diamond is actually a coal that remains inside under pressure for long years. And ultimately, because of that pressure, when it has undergone a tremendous pressure, it has turned itself into a diamond. So today's diamond is a coal, but you have to bear that pressure. So these are different things. So these things we have to understand the moment we are trying to anatomize, vivisect the life of a poet. And poet's life is very important to understand any piece or any text. Because ultimately there is an influence at the back of the creation. Influence may be positive, influence may be negative. But the production is always going to be positive. That creates an illumination in the minds of the readers. So from keeping those aspects in the mind, we have to read anybody who has composed any text. Here we have to be very much concerned about the life of W.B. Yeats. As a poet, he is very famous, versatile character, but at the same time, his life has also gone several changes, several challenges, and several circumferences. We have to look back. And therefore, after that, we have to read the poem, The Lake of Innisfree. What's the aim? What's the intonation? What's the intention of the poet at the back when he writes The Lake of Innisfree? W.B. Yeats, he starts his writing in the year 1890s. He has a romantic legacy and he is among the Victorians. But still, he is like any new poet who aspires to be something new, who aspires to voice something new. What difference he could make in the world? That pinches all the time. That intrepidation that goes on inside the poet, that makes him perfect. He's looking for perfection. He's looking for perfection. He's nourishing. He's stirring all the time. But ultimately, he is able to do this. So being to a level of the perfection, or rather in the crescendo of perfection, still he is like any new poet who aspires to be new all the time. Because he was influenced by Ezra Pound, whose motto was "Make it new." That was an attempt, and yet throughout his life has proved it that definitely everything he wants to make new, and that's literature, that's creation, that's art. Art, I have talked about that art is something very common, appears to be uncommon. This is called defamiliarization. It's a concept by Viktor Slobsky, a Russian formalist critic. If you read English literature later on, then definitely you will be able to grasp those techniques. Defamiliarization, something which is very much familiarized, familiar. In the process you are making it unfamiliar. That's the process of art. And there is an uniqueness. And there is a wonderful saying. It says, the moment anybody understands or comes to know what is unique in that art, at that moment it doesn't become an art. Because the strangeness, that uniqueness, that makes it a piece of art. And the moment somebody comes to know that uniqueness, the spatial spirit inside, that is embedded inside, that it is no longer a piece of art. However, and yet starts collecting Irish folklore, myth, legends, and he starts transforming those things into poems, into new compositions. So therefore, we can understand that his poems, his compositions are not his table work. Rather, these are table-filled work. So the authenticity with which he writes is really first-hand. Then becomes the transition of 20th century, where he becomes very much concerned about Ireland. It becomes one of the prominent themes of his poetic career. At the same time, he came in contact with Morgan and love in variegated forms, in myriad forms. Come to him, invites his mind, love for motherland, love for culture, love for Morgan, love for language. So therefore he says, he appears to be a guardian at that point of time, and therefore he counsels the fellow friends, rather fellow writers, junior writers, that Irish poet, learn your trade. So you have to be well equipped, well armed with the culture of Ireland. Then only you can produce the real picture of Ireland. That was his claim. Unprecedented poet. And then comes, I'm just showing you the phases. It's very difficult to deal yet. And to be very frank, I'm a bit frightened because I'm dealing such a great poet. So to talk about Eliot, it's really a great task. It needs a great deal. However, for you, I'm trying my best to show you a glimpse about Yeats's career or his life. Then comes the onslaught of modernism. Properly speaking, it's just a phase with him because he was long before and after. That is what we understand, the vast range of Yeats's career. Yes, Yeats becomes modern with responsibility. And responsibilities to talk about his motherland, to talk about his culture, to keep, to prevent all the challenges, hazards, dominations from England. And he joined an Irish Republican Brotherhood. And he understood very well that Ireland cannot match militarily with England. So they have to fight in a different way. That is what Yeats focused on his composition, and therefore accordingly he has counseled his fellow writers. Among the pre-romantics, he was very much occupied with Blake, because Blake has thought something which is not dogmatic, which is not stereotypical, which is not orthodox. Yeats understood very well that a poet is a source of inspiration. It's a fountain of imagination. It's quite unique. And that imagination cannot be restrained, cramped by any institution like church or any book like Bible. Therefore, he has a different attitude towards Christianity. Yet it's understood that all these books, it may be from different religions. See, I have already shared that the moment we are reading W.B. Yeats, he belongs to Christianity. But as a reader, I do not belong to Christianity. I'm a Hindu, so therefore I will look for Gita. Somebody who is Muslim, he will look for Quran. So when I'm talking about that any book, it talks about Bible, Gita, in whichever religion you have faith. So any book, any institution like church, these are all worldly affairs, but imagination is outwardly. That can take you to an emancipation from the tortures of this mundane and corporeal world. So therefore, a vision in that particular poem, Yeats has talked about his automatic writing. Automatic writing, it means that it is not cramped, it is not imposed by any external affairs. And it has not been intricated by any external influences. It has to be automatic. Automatic writing. This is the pronunciation is automatic. And roughly this is the career. And there are a few poems that we need to name if we talk about Yeats. Second Coming, Tower, Byzantium, Sailing to Byzantium, Easter 1916. These are all magnum opus. Magnum opus. A tower talks about the majestic beauty. At the same time, it is connected with winding stair. That talks about an architectural beauty. At the same time, why is it a case of beauty? Because there is strangeness. I told that beauty talks about strange things. If there is no strange element inside, then it's not going to be a piece of beauty. And when that tower is connected, and tower also gives you objectivity, distancing effect. Distancing effect. The moment you are trying to criticize, the moment you are trying to have an objective judgment on anything else, you have to be impartial. And for that impartiality, you have to move up. And that tower gives you that objectivity and distancing effect. And the tower is connected with winding stair. It's roundabout. It's a rounding stair. And the moment you are staring up, you do not know what's going to happen in the next moment. So therefore it's strange. Sailing to Byzantium, again, it's a shift. It's a shift. And he wants to move to that world of art where nothing remains. And perhaps he wants to be dominated by the culture of art, if I mean like this. Easter 1916 again talks about terrible beauty. Case of oxymoron. Terrible beauty is born. And definitely, yes, he himself has the power. And that is really terrible. Terrible, it's positive. He has a terrible beauty inside. So it's a task of the readers to get the texture, to get the fervor, the taste of W.B. Yeats. This is a small introduction about, very small introduction about W.B. Yeats. Before I finish this class, I need to talk about two terms, that is modernism and romanticism. What is romanticism and what is romance? Romance is a little bit inept. It's not a mature thing. It's a fascination, fancy. What's the difference between fancy and imagination? Fancy is the lower step. Imagination is a mature step. Similarly, romance and romanticism. Romance is a fascination. So therefore, it's a little bit greenish. If you talk in terms of a fruit, if it is green, it's kacha. And romanticism is the pakka one, the ripened one, matured one. So fabricated, it's not the fabrication. It has taken through ages or through time, it has reached to its own state. But state of maturity, state of perfection, state of embellishment. And romanticism is always a cry for the remote, for the strange, and for beauty. And it's a return to nature. From urbanization, from industrialization, you are again returning to nature because nature has its own beauty. From nature comes culture. Culture can be diminished. Culture may be destroyed. Culture may be annihilated. But nature will take up its own form as it has come from time immemorial. So this is what, and what is modernism? The word modernism has come from a word, Latin word called modo. Modo means this time. So modernism talks about the present time. And from modernism comes a word that is modern. We say that we are very modern. What does it talk about? Does it talk about new dress? Does it talk about a phone with number of facilities? Does it talk about new hairstyle? The moment you are with new hairstyle, you have shown your different costumes. You have accorded yourself with different styles. And does it prove that you are modern? Definitely not. Modern talks about, again, it is connected to your psychology. It's a mental faculty. Modern means an awareness of the society, what changes are coming, and you have to be very much compatible with those changes, and accordingly you are behaving with the world. That is modern. Today we are engaged. We can feel the pain. We want to be free all the time. And this pain will relate you the moment I'm engaging the birds. They also feel the same pain. Like me, they also want to be free in nature. That is modernization. That's the feeling that makes you modern. Not the dress, not the phone, not your hairstyle, not a new bike. So these are the aspects we have to think a lot before we get into the poem. Because these are the situations that compel the poet to write this. Because he wants to go to Innisfree, he wants to be free. And why is this earnest desire in the mind of the poet that he wants to be free? What has chained him? What has imprisoned him? What has encaged him that he wants to be free? So the moment we are reading this poem, before that it is our task to know the problems, the challenges, inconveniences, the struggles, obligations in the mind of the poet. Today I will finish over here. If you have any questions, suggestion is the same, you can jot down. In our next session, even though it's a very small poem, we will try to deal the poem in the next session. Thank you very much.